Hey there folks, and happy Friday evening. Today I'm going to do a video that has been requested by a number of new folks. They asked me what's my daily maintenance routine for my equipment, and that really is a great question because a lot of new folks just flat don't know if they should do anything, nothing, or something. And I'm going to show you what I do. I'm not saying this is what you should do. This is just my particular routine. It works very well for me. Now, please understand, I rotate my razors every day, so if you don't, you might want to change some things, but let's just start off with the razor itself. After I finish shaving, I'll take my razor and I'll completely disassemble it. Remove the handle, remove the blade. I'll set the blade aside to begin with, and what I do is I'll rinse all the soap off the razor. Sort of flick it and get rid of any of that excess water, and I'll take a hand towel and just dry it off. Once I've dried it off, I'll simply set it aside, and I'll leave it that way for the entire day and maybe the entire evening. If it's dry when I get home from work, I'll go ahead and put it together and put it in my rack. Now, one thing to note there, I will not be using this razor the next day, so if you're going to use a razor every day, you can leave the blade in there for a few days if you want to, but I don't recommend that you leave it in there for a week or longer because you can develop rust issues. So for me, I disassemble, I wipe off any soap scum, any water, and let it dry. That's what I do with the razor itself. With the blade, I'll simply rinse it off and I will pat it dry. Don't pat around the edges. Nothing good will come of that. And actually, you can, the crystal blades that I say just tells you to rinse it off and set it. They don't recommend that you pat it. I do. It's up to you. You know, they probably don't want you to pat it because they're afraid you're going to cut yourself, but I will pat it dry and I will set the blade aside to dry as well. Now, of course, I don't use a blade ever any more than 4 times. The way I keep track of how many uses are on my blades, I just put a little die. And this one's a very small one, but you can use a regular one. So today was the first use, so I'll leave the one sitting by the die, and I'll just switch that each day. And that's how I keep track of it. Now, some guys use markers and put a mark on it or write something down. I just use dice. It's easy for me to keep track of. So I will keep track of that blade each day, and I'll go no more than 4 ever, and I'll toss the blade. And if it's rough, I'll toss it even before that. So that's what I do with the blade. With the brush, obviously you want to rinse all the soap residue out of the brush. Don't leave soap residue in your brush. Rinse it out nice and good. And what I'll do is hold on to the bottom of the knot here and just sort of flick it a little bit this way. The reason I hold on to it is you don't want to put a lot of shock on the knot, you know, like that pulling over time could potentially loosen it up. So I like to hold it there and, you know, sort of shake it free. And then again, I'll use a hand towel and I would just lightly remove the excess water. You don't press down like this. You don't need to do that. Just lightly brush it. And then I will place the brush hanging like this on this little stand. Now, there's lots of debate as to whether you put the brush this way or that way. When I'm drying my brushes, I hang them this way. Most of the literature that I've read that come with these brushes, Plasan, for example, tells you to hang them down when they're drying. Does it make any difference? I don't know. But during the time that this brush is drying, I'll hang it down. Tomorrow, I'll put it this side up and place it on my shelf. But while it's drying, I put it in a stand, like you saw, hanging down. I never have any problems with my brushes. It's really important, particularly with natural hair brushes, to keep them nice. If I have a natural hair brush, after it's dried the next day, I'll actually take a comb and lightly comb it to just sort of deal with any of those wild hairs. I don't use natural hair brushes anymore, but when I did, that kept my brushes looking nice. All right. As to the soap, what you want to do immediately after you're finished using it, if you have poured any water in here, blooming it, get it out. I like to set the soap this way for a little period of time, like when I'm getting dressed for work or something, just to let all that drain out. If you have any soap residue in here, you can wipe it out if you want. Most of it will come out on its own, or you can take your finger and wipe it out. Don't leave that soap residue in there. Go ahead and remove it. And what I like to do is set this container with the cap just sort of laid on the container with it open, something like that, for the day while I'm gone at work. That just lets the soap completely air out to make sure there's no residual moisture in there. You don't want to trap moisture in there and then cap it for a long period of time. You could get rust or mildew. I know the tins aren't supposed to rust, but many people have seen rust or substances that look like rust. Most of your soaps won't mildew, but the way you can assure it, leave that baby set for the day. Leave it cracked open. You don't need to leave the cap entirely off. Some debris or something can get in there. Bug gets in something. I just like to do it like that. Leave it that way. When I get home, I'll cap it, return it to my shelf. We're good to go for the next shave. Now, as to aftershave, there is one thing I want to mention with aftershave. If you have aftershaves, the one thing that you don't want to do is leave them in a windowsill or something where they get direct light. That will eventually break down this aftershave and render it useless. So keep these in a cool, dark place. And when I mean dark place, I just mean not in direct sunlight, and that will extend the life of your aftershave. Don't leave them in the window. Nothing good will come of that. Now those are, I should say, my basic maintenance routine. And really, I hardly ever have to get all my stuff out and do a cleaning session, because they stay pretty clean. Just because each day I try to rinse them out and I try to return them to my rack in pristine condition. So if you sort of keep up with your gear and keep up with the maintenance of your gear along the way, you won't have to do nearly as much quarterly maintenance, let's say. So if you have any questions, please hit me up below. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have any requests, make them below. You guys have a great weekend.